when it seemed like there was nothing to be done, it was just sort of like, well, just throw yourself into your work in any way you can and find the connections out in the world that you can find. And, there are opportunities around. I like to think there are opportunities around us all the time. It's just a matter of finding them and what you do with them.
Episode 169.
This is The Business of Architecture.
Hello, I'm Enoch Sears, and this is the podcast for architects, where you'll discover tips, strategies, and secrets for running a profitable and impactful architecture practice. Now, let's get down to business. Today is the second half of my interview with Earl Parson. He's the founder and principal of Parson Architecture, based out of Pasadena, California. And without further ado, let's get into the show. Earl, welcome back to Business of Architecture.
Hey, Nick, thanks. Glad to be back.
So let's take a trip back in your journey, your personal journey as an architect, and talk about the evolution of your firm. Let's jump back to the time when you were still employed by a previous employer, and then how you made that transition from going out to working on your own.
Great. Happy to talk about that. So I was, my current iteration as Parson Architecture, really in this current round, I've been on my own since 2009. So when the recession hit and I got laid off, had saved a lot of as much money as I could. Lesson number one for young architects: save as much money as you can whenever you get the chance.
You're gonna need it.
It's hard, but you got to do it. You really got to do it, and manage your lifestyle so that you can save. That's kind of one of the best advice things I think I can give. And so then when I got laid off, and also I don't have a family, it's just me, and I'm a single guy, and other people that I worked with had to really no choice but to go out and get a job, and the jobs that were available, in the worst of the recession, were not particularly what you would call fun for the most part. And so I was just sort of like, okay, I'm done here. I'm not going to go back. I'm not working for anyone again. And there was really not any work to do. And I've always been really into making things. And I have a workshop in my garage. I do metalworking and woodworking, and I really love to make stuff. And so I just started throwing myself into making stuff in the garage. And I started going to the scrap metal yards. I found some really good scrap metal yards, and where stuff is really cheap. And I started making stuff, and then I got some stuff in a gallery, and then that led to a client, and then that led to another client, from there. And so when it seemed like there was nothing to be done, it was just sort of like, well, just throw yourself into your work in any way you can and find the connections out in the world that you can find. And, there are opportunities around. I like to think there are opportunities around us all the time. It's just a matter of finding them and what you do with them. And so I sort of built it from there. And now prior to that, though, I've not had what I would call a really straight line path professionally through the course of my career. So when I finished school, Buddy and I did some projects, just sort of building out some interior spaces. We got a couple of commercials from just some connections that we had. We built out an interior office suite for some graphic designers. We did some installs of some other retail type spaces through people we knew. And so we made a go of that for about 9 months or a year. And then kind of both gradually got, good job offers and started working after that. So I've always been pretty independently minded in that way, I guess was what I'm trying to say. And worked for a couple of different firms for about the first 8 years or so. And then I had an opportunity to teach, so I taught drawing at Pasadena City College for a while. The firm I had been working at prior to that, which was Studio Works in downtown LA, we did a couple of really great schools for LA Unified, and then that was getting a little slow, so I went to teaching, which I really enjoy, that was my first full-time teaching gig. And then, but it was so there was a guy that went on sabbatical and I came in and filled in full-time. So it was just a full-time, it was a 1-year assignment, basically. So then I went back to full-time architecture after that.
On your own?
No, then I was with a firm in Pasadena.
Okay.
And then I was with them until the recession.
Okay.
So I've worked for architects. I've kind of, whenever I could, kept 1 or 2 projects going on the side, moonlighting when possible. So my earliest projects go back to sort of the early 2000s when I was moonlighting, and it's hard, when you're working for someone else full time to pull that off. And sometimes you can have, I've always worked for relatively small practices. So when things are slow and you get an opportunity to do a project on the side, I've done them with the full graces and blessing of my employers at times, and gone down to part-time to be able to do a project, and it can work well that way also. So I did a lot of that, and then so I had a few projects in my portfolio by the time it was 2009, and I just said, okay, I'm done doing this at that point.
Now, with the layoff, did you see that coming? Was it something like you had seen that kind of gotten hints that this was going to happen?
Yeah, there had been layoffs in 2008, I think in the summer. And then by later in the year, the economy was just continuing to fall apart. And I think by the time, we made it through the holidays, but it was every day in the office felt very uncertain. And then I think by beginning of February, it was the end. And people read the writing on the wall.
So did you take proactive steps before that time because you knew that it was probably going to happen? Were you, scrambling to get some stuff lined up?
Because I refinanced my house. So in late 2008, I knew it was going to be my last chance to refinance while I had a salary still, and I did it then.
Nice. And then
and then just bunkering down, I had a cleaning lady and I let her go. And you kind of could tell, like, you got to quit spending so much money wherever possible at that point.
So you lived off savings for a bit. And what was your first project that really got you going after you were laid off?
So a couple of things happened kind of around, I did at the house, on my website, parsonarchitecture.com, there's a house in Tennessee there. And that's for a family member that built his house in East Tennessee. So it was a great opportunity creatively, and it was sort of on a discount fee, if you will, for family. So it was, I won't say it pulled me out of the recession fully, but it, gave me something to work on. It was definitely a great project. And then by the time I got back and I moved to Tennessee for 10 weeks, which was really fun, and helped build it. And then when I got back, things were picking up a little bit because I have just through some contacts who are interior designers in town, I got a couple of different really good gigs supporting interior designers on some big commercial projects, like a small office, but they had a big commercial job and they needed some architectural support. And so I could jump in and assist, with those. And so really then that started turning it around for me with some consulting that I got. And then, and then from there projects started, coming back after that.
And where did the project start coming from?
Well, I did a few good projects for LaPorte Schools. They're a Montessori education and daycare provider. Primarily, they're mostly in Orange County, California. And I had met some of the folks at LaPorte through some other mutual contacts and just networking. And that turned into, I did about 3 or 4 projects for them, which really was great. I mean, they're wonderful people to work with, and they were good projects, and it was fun. It was a lot of driving to Orange County, but I was happy to do it.
Well, you're driving all the way across LA. So for people who aren't from LA, that's like, jeez.
It was a solid hour in like nasty traffic each way, or more, hour and a half at times, to get to Irvine from Los Angeles. So those projects were really good for me. I developed a project also that hasn't been built yet, but I think it might still in Florida for a new house.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's been, more or less just some projects around Los Angeles for the last couple of years. So
Yep. Now, one thing that architects, when they're starting out, we always struggle with, it's getting the projects in the door. Even if we've been around for a long time, it's doing that, right? And,
right.
you've been involved in the business I have with Eric and Richard, which is Architects Marketing, been a
Right.
member of our Architects Marketing Academy. What's been your experience in that program as a participant?
The big thrill for me out of that participation has just been, I think, my own confidence in how to talk about my practice and how to talk about what I do. That's been really the big thing. My big takeaway from that has just been, when I came to the Las Vegas live training session a year ago, the thing that really was great for me out of that was learning that in order to distinguish yourself from the other practitioners in your area of the market is not to say that I'm the best architect in the world, hire me. It's just to set yourself apart in a meaningful way and to be comfortable and confident presenting yourself in that way. And that if you hire me, this is what you're going to get, and this is my process, and here's how I do things. And I think it's a great process, and I would love to work with you on your project. And really learning how to, I think, talk about not just my process for doing, because then that's still all about me, really. But it's really understanding what the client's needs are and how to really make it all about them. Because just showing beautiful pictures of I just used to agonize over, if I just had better photographs of that one project, everything would be different. And that's so not true. I mean, you need good photos of the projects, but that's not going to be, everyone has good photos of their projects. And that's not going to be the deciding factor for them to hire you or not. It's how you present yourself and talk to them, and seeking to understand them and who they are and what are their needs and what are they looking for and how can you serve them.
Have you been able to identify your voice as a practitioner? How are you different, Earl? How have you applied that takeaway into what you do now?
Well, I mean, it's kind of a constantly ongoing, evolution, I guess. And I don't know, I mean, at this point, so when I came back from the summit in Vegas, I realized that I had some really great before and after photos of some of the projects that I really wasn't highlighting or showing off very, clearly. And so I reformatted the landing page of my website to show, people that work with me get this dramatic before and after, and it's the idea that their lives can have this before and after. It's not just a picture of their house. Their life takes on a more. I need. I'm getting a little tongue-tied on that, but your life can take on a greater richness when things are in order and beautiful in your surroundings, in your home. And that it spills over into other areas, as well. And I guess being able to, just having a website that, and I think most architects, when you go to their website, it says, we're a multidisciplinary firm that specializes in working collaboratively with the clients. I mean, you can kind of rattle it off. And just being able to come up with something of my own that was not that. And that showcased my work and something that I could be proud of that I feel like benefits the clients that I work with. And that was really, I think, the big takeaway from the training for me.
Very cool. Now, as a sole practitioner, what has been your biggest challenge throughout the years?
Well, I think it's always been marketing, and it still, continues to be, just because now, so now that I show a lot of remodeling pictures of before and after on my website, that brings me a lot of clients looking to remodel their house with something great. And I really would like to move on to more of the new house from the ground up, or more major remodeling, where you're really just doing something very fresh from the start. And, so I'm ready to go back and remodel the website again to reflect those ambitions and those benefits to the clients. Because it's, and because it's true that what you put out there, the bait that you put brings the fish that it brings. So I think it's still, messaging and reaching people and just, growing. I don't really see myself as wanting to grow a big office, but growing in the sense of getting better projects, bigger projects, and just growing my ambitions in that way.
Very cool. So what is next for Parson Architecture? What's in store, Earl, for you?
Well, so I think for Parson Architecture right now, it's I'm doing a lot of work on my own house here. Yeah, this is my home office, where I'm sitting, to put on the market. I think an architect always learns a lot from working on his own house. So I'm in that stage right now, doing a lot of work on the place, to sell it this spring. And that'll raise the money that I'll have to start thinking more seriously about building. And then my new house will be the kind of flagship model demonstration proof of concept for the Clever Moderns concept that I've been working on. So I'm still, so Parson Architecture is not taking a complete backseat, and I'm certainly not setting it to the side, but I'm mainly putting my focus more on the Clever Moderns project at this point, and continuing to be more selective with the projects I take for Parson Architecture, which is exciting too. So that's pretty much where I'm headed.
All right. If people want to connect with you, Earl, what's the best way to do that?
You can connect with me through, so Parson Architecture is on Facebook, and I'm on Twitter. I'm not hugely on Twitter all the time, but I feed my other posts and activities into Twitter. I'm blogging at theblog.parsonarchitecture.com. And so I've got project updates and things going on there. I'm on Twitter at Earl3D. I'm the third. I'm named after my father and my grandfather, so my Twitter is Earl3D, which kind of goes with architecture as well. And on Facebook, and I'm on Instagram at Architect Earl.
Awesome. Well, I've been speaking with architect Earl Parson today. He's based out of California, architect, and also the founder of clevermoderns.com. So go check it out. Earl, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks, Enoch. Appreciate it.
And that is a wrap. Thank you for listening today. If you're looking for more time, freedom, impact, and income as an architect, get instant access to my free 4-part architect profit map by visiting freearchitectgift.com. The sponsor for today's show is ArchReach, the client relationship management tool built specifically for architects. If you want to systematize your marketing and business development, ArchReach will help you do it. Visit archreach.com to learn more. The views expressed on this show by my guests do not represent those of the host, and I make no representation, promise, guarantee, pledge, warranty, contract, bond, or commitment except to help you conquer the world.